to the basement, and despite my rather Hoovian scarf, we are of course talking anime today. We're up to episode 22 of the series Blue Seed. This episode titled Sadness, Fate, Momiji Kushinada. It originally aired March 1st, 1995. It had its English premiere January 15th in the year 2000. This is a rather unique episode, in my opinion, in that we don't. The origami is doing their thing. All the major cities in Japan have been literally turned into urban jungles, covered totally with plants. People are being evacuated. Max exodus is all over the place. The moon's orbit has shifted. It's expected that within 7 days, Japan is going to be plunged into total darkness, which is an environment that the origami themselves prefer. And on top of everything else, the prime minister declares that we're going to have to do the one thing that we really don't want to do, and that's actually perform a human sacrifice, and orders that Momiji be taken into custody so that they can perform the ritual, sacrifice her, and, all the origami will go back to, chilling out and waiting for another Kushinada to be born, even though they have their own Kushinada, which is actually, come to think of it, I'm not sure how that totally works, because Katie sacrificed herself. That meant all the power went into Momiji, right? So if Momiji sacrifices, if the sacrifice, it doesn't happen in this episode, does that power revert back to Katie and she becomes full-fledged Kushinada? How does that work? Anyone got any ideas? Anyway, I digress. But now Momiji is surprisingly okay with being sacrificed, mainly because she wants to do it out of revenge for the fact that Kusanagi was killed in the previous episode. Um, and that this comes to the shock as the rest of the TAC, as it did me, the viewer. But her reasoning is kind of there that she, all of her hopes and everything is really pining on Kusanagi, and this probably from a feminist point of view, that she's holding out and hoping for a man to come save her. People have to remember that that Momiji is like 16, 17 years old. Her life has barely begun, and she's fallen in love with Kusanagi, and throughout the series he's been there to protect her, and she's hoping is like this. If she's going to sacrifice herself, one of two things is going to happen: Kusanagi is going to show up and stop the whole thing, or she's going to end up being sacrificed, and the origami plans get thwarted that way. So it's kind of an interesting conundrum there. It's like one way or another, Momiji ends up winning. It's just that one way is more preferable than the other. But good news is Kusanagi is still alive, technically speaking. This episode shows that he's in the clutches of Katie, Susanoo, and Murakumo, and when Momiji detects this, she detects that Kusanagi's energy is draining rapidly, meaning they're probably doing something to him, as like maybe absorbing the energy from his matamas or something of nature. Is not really clear. Now, a fun aspect of this episode is the fact that Mr. Kunakita, Ryoko, and Kome decide, heck with it, we're not going to let Momiji sacrifice herself. We'll go rogue, we'll turn treason, turn traitor against the country, uh, total coup d'etat, and Mr. Kunakita knows where Momiji was going to be taken. There's apparently a temple underneath Tokyo that's been there for 400 years. It's government sanctioned for human sacrifices. Your tax dollars at work. And in a rather fun sequence, we see Ryoko and Kome get in via a distraction created by Mr. Shunashida. And in perfect timing to reach their destination at the temple, get Momiji. Ryoko actually slaps Momiji around a bit, telling her that you are not going to sacrifice yourself. We came here to get you, to fight beside you, to save the day. And when they get, stopped by some of the government agents to, to keep Momiji in custody, Sakura shows up, to lend her magical assist, and it's a mad dash to get out of there. So that's a fun few minute sequence in this episode. And we find out that the prime minister has declared that the TAC is no more, and that they're all basically fugitives at this point, since they busted out Momiji. To make matters even more interesting or worse, depending on your perspective, well, the perspective of the characters within the story, Matsudara and Yagashi have been studying the Kushinada effect. It's like this energy wave, this energy field that it's kind of something that's kind of a forgotten detail, that because it hasn't really come up much since the early episodes of the series, is that there where Momiji was being placed in a ceramic field that dissipated the Kushinada energy. And so if they could harness the energy of the Kushinada, they can weaponize it and use it against the Aragami. So as Matsudara and Yagashi are working, when the Prime Minister declares that the TAC is no more, there goes the power. So yeah, kind of a bad timing there. Kind of makes you think that they should have been working on this the entire time, but they maybe they were, maybe they weren't, or maybe they kept it as a side project because everything else that Matsudara was coming up with was working so well. But it is what it is there. Let me see. Anything else in this episode worth talking about? Susanna O has evolved into a more adult form and apparently communicates with Katie telepathically. She says she understood, but we don't know what was communicated. And Susanna O enters some sort of giant sea type looking thing. I didn't really was kind of confused over what the heck I was looking at there. And also, Matsudara did run some scans and tests on Momiji early in the episode, and noticed that Momiji's Matama is 5 times more active and powerful than it was previously. So as I discussed on Friday, this past episode, that Momiji's powers and Matama abilities are becoming more well known, more active. It definitely shows there's a reason for it. It's whatever the heck the Aragami is doing is giving her some extra abilities that obviously were not present in the early episodes, but have been becoming more and more apparent in recent episodes, such as the flight, the telepathy, the ability to detect Kusanagi, and all that good stuff. Let's see. Other than that, I think that just about covers everything. I mean, this was a very good episode that definitely advanced the story and definitely puts a twist. Now that our heroes are basically outlaws in a way, because the government is going to want to track Momiji down and do what voodoo they need to do to stop the Aragami. And while the TAC is obviously working for a more reasonable way of dealing with the situation. So it's gonna be rather fun to see how the final 4 episodes play out. So on that said, when's the next time we're gonna do an episode of Talking Anime? Well, the plan is Friday of this week. We'll go over episode 23, titled "Meeting Again, Starting the Journey. I Won't Give Up." So now again, that's episode 23. Then we got episodes 24, 25, and the finale, episode 26. This and so far it's been a very cool journey going through all these episodes one by one, and so I'm very much looking forward to seeing how everything plays out. So with that said, my friends, and of course you are my friends, be kind, please subscribe, and we'll catch you next time, which actually will be later today, for my reaction and review of the 2017 WWE Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Will Goldberg win the Royal Rumble? Will Kevin Owens retain the title against Roman Reigns? Will John Cena break his back trying to carry AJ Styles to a good professional wrestling match? All these questions will be answered later this evening. So until then, have yourselves a good one, folks.